Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for my client Antonio's vlog, and we're coming back from a non-gym injury, and he has a meet coming up, and I mean a meet coming up really quick. I have a couple lifters actually with meets within the next month that we're working towards, but again, he slipped and fell on the ice. The doctor actually said that he impinged his shoulder doing it, which, interesting injury. But, again, that's what the doctor said. I'm not going to argue with it. Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me, but hey, again, I'm not going to second guess the man's medical doctor. So he impinged his shoulder. So for us to get a 260 on that close grip, we're pretty happy with. And because his shoulder got pretty banged up, we're going to go into this meet doing only close grip, and it means we're not necessarily going to get as big of a bench as we had wanted, but we'll live with it. So in the meantime, we're going to just hammer his triceps really hard. So what we're seeing here for a lot of our supplemental work, we're seeing close grip benching, you're seeing some JM presses. Again, he does very strict JM presses. I pulled out some of the band work because this video is going to run a little bit long. So we're doing band work, and then of course we do things like rows. We do some lateral raises. When he's training in the garage gym, because he trains at the commercial gym 2 or 3 times a week, garage gym at least once. So again, for laterals he ends up using plates. For rowing we just do again a standard barbell row because again we don't have a lot of equipment here, right? When he does these at home, but we still get the work in. We come in, get some quality work in. So we're usually happy with it, and we make it work. And again, just a lot of it has to do with what he has to do with travel, with school, with work, getting to and from the gym, particularly, when he's living in a cold place where there's snow, there's ice and stuff. Again, we work with what we have. So here he's finishing up with some lateral raises with plates. Again, just working on getting those shoulders a little stronger. Although these aren't really lateral raises, they're really rear delt flies. But again, building the posterior delts up. We tested a little bit with some classic lifts, walking into his max effort day. He likes to double max. The other thing that we're going to note, he's about to cut down a weight class or so, maybe 2. He's realized just, overall health, competitiveness, everything else. He knows his body fat's a little higher than what's ideal. So again, he told me he wants to cut. So we're going to cut after this current meet coming up. Here we just did, again, about a 420 squat. Again, he's fighting a little bit with that shoulder, so we're working around it the best that we can. And I know that's not the best squats we've seen from him in the past, but we've had a lot of detraining and stuff happen. Again, we've hit a 475 squat before. So again, doing some sumo pulling against heavy bands for a max. And then afterwards, he did some Romanian deadlifts, but we've decided moving forward after this day, we're probably better for him sticking with good mornings. Again, he doesn't ever get his back quite in the perfect position we would like for the RDLs compared to a good morning. He gets a lot more out of the good morning. But again, some of it, because he had dealt with that shoulder issue, I didn't want him throwing a bar up on his back unless we had access to specialty bars. But he has a rackable cambered bar at this gym now, the one he's training at. So we're going to work with that a little bit moving forward. You'll see it later in the vlog. But yeah, for supplemental work here, we're doing RDLs. We do belt squats, and he does a very wide stance belt squat because he squats wide and he pulls sumo in meets, right? He pulls sumo in meets. So this is what we tend to do. And he usually PRs on his deadlifts in competition. Like we walk into meets for him with really low deadlifts. And he's walked into a meet and hit a 30-pound PR. More than he had ever pulled in his life. So again, we're not as worried about it. We tend to be a little conservative with his deadlift maxes because, when meet time comes, as long as his hips and everything are good, we're going to be good. But again, we do a wide stance on the belt squat because he does everything wide. Then of course he does some back work usually on his lower days. So here we're doing some rows off the floor. Sometimes we'll work in lat pull downs, just depending on how his back is feeling, how his back is doing. But again, respectable weights here, like 185 for his work sets. I'd like to see that a little higher because you guys know a lot of times I do these with quite a bit more myself, but I also deadlift more than him. But again, not a bad weight considering how strict he's doing them, right? But it's also an area we know that we can improve upon. JM presses being done here. We didn't get his speed work on camera for benching this week. Again, just the way things go. He ran into an issue again at a gym with filming, problems like that. So again, one of the issues we have sometimes in more commercial type gyms, although this one does have some pretty decent equipment. We do have access to things like a reverse hyper, a belt squat. So, we can't complain too much. All right. For dynamic effort lower day, we do speed boxes, and we run a lot of band tension for people who are looking at the bands, start doing the math. We're running over 100 pounds of bands. So we run the bands extremely aggressive for his speed work, usually in the ballpark of 25% of our max. We like to usually use specialty bars when possible for his speed boxes. And again, notice he does them with a really, really wide stance. Same thing with these. We're doing speed pulls. Of course, he's using his hook grip for a lot of these because he pulls hook grip in competitions. And again, when you're running over 100 pounds of band tension on speed work, that hook grip starts to hurt real fast. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world. So he ends up a lot of times switching the grip around to either double overhand, other stuff as he gets further into it as necessary just to save his thumbs. But we do like to get the hook grip practice in. All right, here we're seeing the good mornings that we're talking about. So for him, because he squats really wide stance, and again, to get some extra glute and adductor, we like to do these pretty wide. All right, he gets more out of them. Whenever I have him do narrow ones, he's just like, they do nothing but hurt my back. So occasionally I make him do them, but he doesn't personally get as much out of them as far as getting into a good position. We get really, really good squat carryover for him with this wider stance on these. Plus, I like this bar a lot for developing things like glutes. Right, this bar is great for glute development in my experience. All right, then of course we finish up with normal accessories we would expect for this. You're going to see a belt squat, reverse hyperextension, some lat pull downs. Again, we try to go as deep as possible. We try to get below parallel on these even when he goes really, really wide. And sometimes he'll take them in a little narrower, which we may be doing just to bring his quads up because we don't always need to worry about carryover. It depends on if we're trying to get squat carryover versus if we're just trying to build his quads up. And we can go a little narrower on these and go deeper if we want to focus entirely on quads. So again, these stances kind of matter with what we're doing for emphasis, right? They matter quite a bit, and we do rotate and change things up a lot for Antonio just to avoid some inflammation and things. All right, so we tend to rotate stuff more often for him than I do with a lot of my other lifters, just to do with inflammation, overuse, personality type. And then we finish up with the reverse hypers and some lat pull downs. So I hope it has been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.